Welcome to the Tree of Life Mystery School at the Crystal Dome Retreat tonight. And I want to take you on a little journey through some beautiful artwork and some diagrams that hold a lot of information. And you're welcome to ask questions as we go along, because there will be a YouTube audience that would be asking questions in their own mind. So you have to be surrogates and channel those questions. I think there's 42 slides, so we're probably going to run about 90 minutes, my guess. And the first slide here, this beautiful color artwork, which is kind of three-dimensional sacred geometry. If you can see it, there's kind of a vortex point here, and then these are flying out. It was done by a dear friend of mine named David Friedman, who lives up in the village of Tzfat in northern Israel. And Tzfat is populated by artists primarily who are doing, shall we say, mystical work, illuminating through painting, pottery, jewelry, whatever, concepts and ideas from the Kabbalah, because Tzfat was the center of Kabbalah in the 16th century, and that's where the great being called the Ari was. So David's done a beautiful three-dimensional version using graphic design. And he was kind enough to let me use it as the cover for the Tree of Life Tarot Workbook, which is a series of visualizations with the underpinning of understanding that the 22 tarot cards, although they got quite maligned and resorted in the Middle Ages, came out of initiations, likely from Egypt, you'll see later, but the Hebrew language is attuned to those 22 initiations. So each of the 22 major trumps are major initiations that we would go through in a lifetime. Okay, okay, we'll go to the next one here. Here is a mandala that is at the very back of the Tree of Life Tarot Workbook, and it took me a long time to meditate to get here. But you can see here's the letter stream. So the Aleph would be connected to the magician. In Egypt, that netter would be Atum, the one god. And I had to do a lot of feeling out for the constellation. And I believe it would be the supergalactic center, which is at about 3 degrees of Libra, which is usually around the time of the Hebrew New Year. So the Hebrew New Year starts in Libra, conjuncting, when the sun would be conjuncting more or less, even though it's a lunar calendar, the supergalactic center, whereas every other calendar has a different beginning. The Chinese start somewhere, the Tibetans start somewhere else, lunar variations, and then the solar calendar for astrologers starts when the sun goes into Aries. Okay? And then, so Beit would be the high priestess, Aset, or Isis in Egyptian, and Sirius being the star energy. And we have legends of the dolphins coming from Sirius, and Drimbalo talks a lot about Syrian sacred geometry. The Gimel is the empress, so she's the goddess of the earth, more connected in Egyptian lore to Hathor, okay, the cow, the goddess with the cow ears. And that seems more Pleiadian in its alignment. If you've read any of the channeled literature on the Pleiadians, they'd like to see us all pursue a nature shaman path, really. Something. And there was a whole season of crop circles where it was Pleiadian medicine card symbols in the fields. So, and we're going to talk a little bit about crop circles later, because I've thrown a few in. And so it goes on, you know, I could do a whole workshop just on these 22 correspondences. And they're fascinating. For instance, Ma'at is connected to the star Vega, which is the once and future pole star. Vega used to be a pole star, it will be again. And Ma'at means in Egyptian, what should we call it? cosmic harmony. Okay, so the pole star, because it would be the place of initiation of energies for a cycle of time, begins in a cosmic harmony pulsation. And then there's other channels will tell you that beings from Lyra, which is that star system, but not specifically Ma'at, came and migrated to Sirius, and those beings, the Vegans, if you want to call them that, from Vega, their language is music, not words. It's music and tone. And I've just been working with Ashala, creating a kid's bedtime story called Star Buddhas, about creatures who have come from other star systems, embodying, not as humans, as other animals on this earth, to deliver kind of a Buddhist, this is the message for this era kind of message. It was a blast doing. So I'm hoping that it might get published before a big novel. I hope so. So this I won't belabor it, but then of course the Yod is the Wheel of Fortune. And the last four are very, very interesting. In Hebrew, Kuf, Resh, Shin, and Tav, they are in the hundreds, 100, 200, 300, 400. If you take the Resh out, you have the word for the rainbow, Keshet. And Sheet in Hebrew, Shin, Tav, is the foundation, as in the Hebrew word Bara, Sheet, which also means 6. So you create the 6 days of creation, the primordial hexagram. And I have a dear buddy who's working in sacred geometry, and that hexagonal formation is extraordinarily important for understanding time-space, period. So, and the Tav, I suggest, would be connected to the galactic center. Anyways, there's a whole batch of information about this form of Kabbalah in the Tree of Life Tarot Workbook, which is now available as an ebook online. So people can, order that and spend half a year reading it and working with it, and then, eventually they'll give me a call and say, can I come to a seminar? I say, well, have you read the book? Yeah, okay, I guess so. Okay, let's go on. When I was writing what turned out to be an epic poem, Aleph 2160, I was just collecting Hebrew gematria. So these are the Hebrew gematrias for 151. And Ha'olam, the universe, was one of those words. And mikvah, which is a ceremonial cleansing, a place of water, a mikvah, where you bathe in a place of purification. So with these hints from the Hebrew words, combined with a little bit of star energy, star mythology, so it was like putting together a huge mosaic, and I would get little tiny messages from spirit, but I had to put it into a musical form. So I'll read this one for you, and let me know if you've got any questions. Who has 1 voice and 4 feet in the morning, 2 at noon, 3 feet in the evening? Well, that's obviously the Sphinx, eh? Who's up here, courtesy of Courtney Mill. Is this Tefnut, Aset, Asnat, Miriam at the mikveh, or poker-faced Ra Harmaches, staring down Shemesh, staring down the sun? Chorem Achet, that's what the people in Nazat El Saman, the village where my buddy Hakim lived, will refer to the Sphinx as Chorem El Achet. 1 ear missing now. Who? 1 ear listening for the play of pulsars, pole stars, gamma rays, ghosts in the Grand Gallery. Cairo traffic. So if you're meditating in the Giza Pyramid, in the King's Chamber, the Queen's Chamber, maybe halfway up the ascending passage, all those impressions are there. Maybe the Cairo traffic screened out unless you climbed to the top or something. But it's quite a cacophonous but extraordinary resonance chamber. Paul Horn worked with it. There are sacred numbers in it. It's tuned to a specific vibration, 256 cycles per second. The play of pulsars, pole stars, gamma rays, ghosts in the Grand Gallery, Cairo traffic, the call to prayer. Song of Akera Aku. The first Ehiyah. Ehiyah in Hebrew is the word for pure being. The first Ehiyah, echoing Adam El Aha, whisperings from Ha'olam, whisperings from the universe. What secrets lie hidden in Sahara sand? Starship, Asar, the boat of Ra. The boat of Ra has already been discovered and excavated, and you can go and visit there, and unless you have a little understanding of prehistory and the fact that Heliopolis and where the pyramids were islands. Islands in a big flooding Nile in those days. Okay, so so that everything in Egyptian mythology gets birthed out of a sacred island, one could say. Okay. I'll do one or two more lines and we'll move on. Come dream with us between the paws of the Sphinx, scan the records, touch etheric pillars carved out by sound, balance the hemispheres. So when I have the opportunity, when I'm guiding an Egypt trip, to take people, and you have to pay a bit of money, but you can get to meditate between the paws of the Sphinx, it's very popular because Edgar Cayce suggested that the Atlantean Hall of Records was very near the right paw of the Sphinx. So if you're meditating there and you've got a crystal, which is what I usually use, and you can get into a deep enough state, you might just get a crack at being able to bring back some of your personal records from an Atlantean lifetime. And it's a very, it's a little bit of a social thing when big tour groups do it, because then they want to do their ceremony. I've had to guide that kind of group too, but I prefer a small group where everybody gets a shot at meditating between the paws of the Sphinx for 10, 15 minutes. And it's a really wonderful opportunity to attune. Okay. I know that we have to go a little quicker than I would normally want to. And you're going back and forth between Egypt and Hebrew. And by the end of the slideshow, you'll know why. This is a wheel of the 22-letter Hebrew alphabet that my teacher, who is the one called Johanna in the Unicorn Messiah, from, I guess it's 30 years ago or longer. 36 years ago. This was a master mandala that she pulled out of the ethers, where she was looking at the alphabet, and it's not the Sefer Yetzirah connection between letters and zodiac signs. But I like this one, and I still work with it. Aleph, for this cycle, is connected to Aries, because Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. For this last 2100 and, well, from the age of Aries, really, back 2 cycles ago. And then Taurus would be Beit, Gemini Gimel, Dalet, Cancer, He for Leo, Vav for Virgo, Zion for Libra, Chet for Scorpio, Tet for Sagittarius, Yud for Capricorn, Kaf for Aquarius, and Lamed, which is, Lamed is like a spiral vortex that's spinning on a point. And Lamed is like your breath. If you're a Buddhist, the in-breath going into the out-breath, or the out-breath going to the in-breath, is called a Lamed point. So a Lamed point is a still point where things are going to switch from clockwise to counterclockwise, or vertical to horizontal, whatever. So it's a switch in how you're taking in or giving out information. So it kind of fits for the age of Pisces, because in astrology, the Pisceans are so much connected to the astral energy of the dream plane that they take things in the physical, and then it has to get converted. And and we had a lot of fun in this Kabbalah group. I think at one point Johanna managed to get this on a T-shirt And it was basically like saying that she was equal to Jesus as the turning point, because Yeshua, the one now called Jesus in North America, but his Hebrew name was Yehoshua or Yeshua, he represented a kind of a cosmic lamed point for the inauguration of the age of Pisces. And that started out with the idea of the age of compassion and charity and the good values, but got very quickly co-opted by the Roman Catholic Church. Sad to say. Okay, so, you know...
Didn't that even start in Egypt?
Well, lots of things started in Egypt. I mean, what you find in the Egyptian mythology, there's a big volume by a guy named Mackey, I believe, that my buddy Jared had. 4 volumes, huge, showing how the gospel stories evolved out of Egyptian mythology.
Oh.
And the Gnostic tradition that was in Egypt, you have to understand that, Drinvalo told people that the Essenes were the place where Yeshua, initially began with his training. The Essenes were a breakout group of the Egyptian Therapeutae. And they had been sent, and Israel was a province of Egypt at that time. More on that later. Back to the wheel. Kaf, Aquarius, Yud, Tet for Sagittarius, and Samach, and Ayin for Scorpio, Pe or Fe for Libra, Tzadi for Virgo, Kof for Leo, Resh for Cancer, Shin for Gemini, and Tav for Taurus. And what became really interesting is that these double gates have meaning. Aquarius has Keter Malchut, the crown of the kingdom. Capricorn has Nun Yud, which is like the fish swimming through time. Sagittarius, Samach Tet, is the word you'd see it at an airport in Israel. It has to do with flight. Chet Ayin is Ayin Chet is Eitz Chaim, the tree of life, is actually in Scorpio through this. So this is, and then Libra, my sign, has Zion, which is balance or symmetry, and Pe, which is speech or spiral vortex energy. So what you need to understand is that the Hebrew letters are pure physics principles that have a sonic correlate or have a sacred geometry correlate.
So a frequency when you say correlate?
Meaning that they have a frequency and they have a
quality?
Essence?
They have an essence that could move into color, could move into sound, could move into sacred geometry. So they are multi-dimensional windows.
Like holographic?
They're holographic, yeah. And that's how you would use them sonically. Okay, and we'll do a bit of sound a little later on. Rish Dalit, it has to do with, Dor Vador, generation after generation. And in traditional astrology, Cancer is the great mother energy, birthing generation after generation, childbirth, okay? Gemini is, I think there's one Gemini in our room, you have to forgive me here, but the Hebrew word for to dance so quickly that you get crazy, it's the word meshugana. It's almost Yiddish. So Gemini gets Shin Gimel because it's all about motility, the slow motion movement of the camel, or the ultimate speed of a motor car with going at speed of light with the letter Shin. So, I'm taking you into how to say it, the humor-filled world of Kabbalah, because there's so much punning going on. People don't know how to approach a sacred text. They don't understand that the Hebrew scribes, the scribes of any tradition, had their own humor-filled, coded language that they were working with. And they put in subtext, and they put in, music and games and whatever. And to reduce it all to something that's, something that a theologian can talk about with an agenda is kind of ridiculous. Now, a sacred text is more like an epic poem that is highly resonant and multidimensional.
I want to say one other thing about this. I have a question.
Yeah.
That second glyph up here, that one, basically the one that means spiraling, transitioning to another phase and a different angle.
Yeah.
Well, it's that reminds me of we're transitioning into the age of Aquarius. So we're at another transition point into more an ethical age.
Yeah, we are at another cosmic Lamed point at the end of the age of Pisces, and there's a debate as to when that actually was. You know?
And one other question, how does that relate to the second coming of Christ? That idea, does that relate at all?
Somewhat. It's sort of like the first coming got kind of clouded over, in quite a difficult way. And now what we're looking for is not the person. You know, the Greek word Christos is from the Hebrew word Mashiach, which means to be anointed. So King David, the various anointings in Hebrew culture were basically having a light being seen, evidently shining right through the crown chakra. And if you're a Mashiach in Israel, I guess you're a massage therapist. You're doing massage work, right? You're letting karma dissolve so that the pure light can have a good vessel to live in.
Yeah.
Okay? So this Lamed point that we're in now is going to have to invert so many concepts that came out of theology that were hijacking the message. You know? So, you know, I'm certainly Jewish and I love Kabbalah, and I'm certainly aware of Yeshua as a teacher. And I enjoyed the channeling that Tom Kenyon brought through in his Magdalene manuscript too, because it took the New Testament back to its roots in Egypt. It's a long answer to a short question.
That's good.
Okay, so this is a fundamental mandala that when I'm working with people, you know, in Sedona or here, in Kabbalah, then I'm going to work with this mandala because it's rich. This is something that's a mosaica that's found at a place called Beit Alpha, and it was done probably by Greek Jewish monks, if there's such a thing, that came and settled up in the north of Israel, in the Galil area, and it's like this to this day. So when I was there the first time in Israel, I had the opportunity to meditate and walk this whole wheel. So Sartan is cancer. That seems to be the only one that has the name. Well, no, there's a couple more here, but these are the Hebrew names. And it's beautiful. It's very much early, how should we say it, mosaical work from the Mediterranean. And boy, I had a meditative experience. I put it in the Unicorn Messiah, because when I got to this point here, I'm not sure whether it was in Sartan meditating on Capricorn or was here meditating on Sartan. I think in the synagogue, the temple might have been here, like where the Torah scrolls were. And when I got here, I got this draft of energy that came right through my body. It was very, very powerful. And that's why I go to sacred sites, is for the meditation experiences in the temples. And I'm not too worried about who did the temple. I'm just interested to see what I can receive in the dream state, vibrationally, meditating at those. That's why all the people that are going to Cuzco, it can be Irish culture, Peruvian, it doesn't matter. When you can get to a pure temple that's been worked with in ceremony and just get in resonance with that, it's a very beautiful experience. And that's still a tourist site in Israel to this day. If you go, you can visit.
It looks very Incan somehow, and kind of ayahuasquero art in the middle. I recognize that vibe.
That's the chariot of the sun. Like, and these aren't horses, but this is the chariot of the sun. And that's coming more, I think, out of Greco-Roman, but it might have been there in Sumerian too. Now here's a mandala on the Song of Songs, which is called Shir Shirim. And this is done by I think a Yemenite Jewish artist, and he's taken, this is called microcalligraphy, he's taken the whole of the Song of Songs maybe he took like one chapter, and this is microcalligraphy where the Hebrew letters are there making up the story, but he mapped it out into sacred geometry. And Rabbi Akiva pointed to the Shir Shirim as the holiest book for Kabbalah. So what he was saying is that our relationship, creature to creator, lover to beloved, is the most important dialogue that we have. And it's kind of like Yemenite love poetry to me, but it's a beautiful book. People think that King Solomon wrote it because he had a very sacred love relationship with the Queen of Sheba. But I'm not so sure about that. Johanna had a different idea on it. I think it might have been adapted from a particular community. Just a guess. Now, there's an aspect of Kabbalah which is called gematria, very poorly understood. But when you look at any Hebrew word, it has a frequency by totaling up the value of the letters, okay? And Greek has that as well. And I used to have long, long conversations with a dear friend, John Michel, in Britain, because he was a master at working with the Greek. So he would say, it means this in the New Testament in Greek. I said, that's nice, John, but in Hebrew it means this, you know? So it's like different languages code gematria in different ways. So what I was interested in as an astrologer is the number 360, because I have 360 degrees of the zodiac, and I have stars that I know the vibration of when they come to the ecliptic that represent that. And for the writing of the epic poem, I use those star myths as well. So these are just some of, think wholeness, completeness for 360, full circle, right? So you have the word Shemacha, which means your name, and that's like the divine name. You have the phrase Sus v'rachavo, which is the horse and its rider. You have the phrase Ezer Kenegdo, which is the helper or the soulmate. Comes up very early in Genesis. You have the phrase Ruach Olam, which means life breath of the universe.
So Joseph, when you add those two words, they add up to 360.
They add up to 360.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. You have Moshe, Moses, and his partner. He was 345, and his partner Yah, Yud Hey, which is the short name for the divine name. So he was a partner with Yah, bringing something through to this planet. You have the phrase Anenu, Anenu, which is basically in prayer, answer us, answer us. That's after a petition is made to the Holy One. You have Eliyahu and Korach. Eliyahu is the prophet who was the true prophet. It kind of represents the Lamed point. If you remember in the New Testament, they're waiting for the one. They needed Eliyahu to be a messenger so that a Messiah, the next one, could come. So they basically framed that one on John the Baptist. But that might have been a bit of a shenanigan there. And it may be, and this is speculative, and I think I'll get a few emails from YouTube watchers on this one, but it may be that Yeshua himself represented that Lamed point of Eliyahu, the one who came to bring justice and righteousness to our planet, and the second incarnation is the messianic fulfillment of something that started 2160 years ago, like that. Yosef, my name in Hebrew, Yehosef, Tzaddik, which is the righteous one, so even he's referred to as that at some point, the biblical Yosef. Magen Merkava, which means the shield of the Merkava. So consider, and we'll do a Merkava meditation later, when you're in riding in the chariot, you need a shield of protection because of the velocity of consciousness and the dimensional skipping that's going on when you're in that chariot of consciousness. Chesed me'Avraham. Avraham is the one who is the giver of chesed, which is compassion in the Hebrew mythology. Bricha, oneg, I'm going to leave that. Panim al panim is a phrase used of Moses, who was supposedly spoke with the divine and was with the Holy One, the transpersonal divine. Faces to faces, presence to presence. That's what panim al panim means. Bara, ahava, kadim, and that means create a love that is primordial, that is from before the beginning of time, something like that. Melech ruach ha'adamah, which would be malach ruach ha'adamah, should be the angel or the messenger of the spirit of the earth. There is an angel, Sandalphon is the name of that angel, who is the angel of the earth energy that works equal to the angel of the heavenly energy. Okay? And here the last one on this list is Kabel Eitz Chaim, which means receive, or open yourself to receiving the tree of life. And this is just a list that I came up with because I was interested in it. But I'm sure there's much more.
It's an alchemy of language, balanced words, balanced phrases.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, and most of these are biblical words, you know, right out of the Hebrew Torah. And I couldn't find any other Kabbalist who worked with this 360 method. Though I was told that my teacher was Avraham Abulafia, who worked with the sound, and he was friends with Sufis, and that's one of the reasons why I want to take a small group to the island of Gozo, because he lived on a little island off of Gozo and wrote extraordinary meditation manuals. And in a certain sense, I followed his method of writing through the clues of Hebrew Gematria. And I had no idea how long a journey I was getting into doing that. This is something that many people in New York and LA and London are interested in. This is called the 72 Divine Names. And I'll do a little bit of divination here. You just come and tell me if there's one of these, and I'll talk about, I can't do all 72, maybe one day in Sedona in a workshop, but just show me, Jeremy, which one you're interested in. Okay, so this one is Ayin Shin Lamed. And Ayin Shin Lamed, let me see if I can find it here. Let's see what number it is. The three letters go something like this. Ayin is the earth energy, Shin is spirit, and Lamed is this repolarization. What number is it here? There's 8 across. 24, 32, 40, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think. So what I have written for this has to do with Asiyah v'Shalom, because I'm looking at these letters being coded for word, and I call this the angel or the energy for making peace.
Just need more light.
Okay. So the let's try another one. Robert, you got one that you like here?
Hard for me to see them from here.
Well, get up close.
I'm getting up here. Okay. Ooh, this jumps to that.
Yeah, okay, Yod. Great.
Yod.
Yod. I'm quite willing to chant this one.
Okay.
Because Yod is important. And I'll tell you why in a sec. me find out what number is it there. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Looks like 19. No? It's 22.
18.
16.
22.
So we count from the
Oh,
right
count
to the
from the
left.
right, yeah. 12,
I think it's 18, isn't it?
22.
13,
18,
14.
19, 20, 22,
Well-
24,
I 20.
16, 17, 18,
22.
20,
22?
22.
Yeah, it's 22.
Okay. So I called this poetically the creative touch because the yod is the hand. Yod is considered to be a short way of writing the divine name. So it's the hand of God, if you want, the divine hand. So we as humans have two hands. We have the left side of our tree of life, the right side of our tree of life, but there's another hand, which is the divine hand, which comes down the central pillar of our spine from other dimensions above. So that particular yod is maybe seen etherically on occasion, hanging over the crown chakra. Now, there was a great soul named King Solomon. And he could equilibrate between the power of compassion and the power of justice. And you have that in the story where there's, two people fighting over a child in the Hebrew legend, or in the Bible actually, in the Torah. So King Solomon in a certain sense represents Yod, Yod, Yod. His name was Yadid Yah, which means the beloved of Yah, the divine. So that particular one is very, very interesting for me. If I want to call in the wisdom from the divine realms that King Solomon had access to, or if I want to, be like John of God, who got King Solomon as his first spirit guide, according to report, then I would make these sounds. Or Or there was an Atlantean way of doing it, according to Frank Alper, who brought through the Atlantean tonal chants, and got picked up, I think, by Spielberg and the one who made the films.
Contact? What was that first movie?
Close Encounters.
Close Encounters.
Yeah,
yes.
Yoda. Yeah.
Oh, Star
So
Wars.
Yoda
Star
is
Wars.
coming right from this Hebrew letter Yod.
Yeah.
Yes.
And his way of doing that chant, because I spent time with Frank Alper, he's a lovely man, and he taught a lot of people how to work with crystals. So his went, so there you got your sort between Hebrew, Atlantean, and it may very well be that the Hebrew language was the language of prayer and interdimensional connection in the time of Atlantis. I have begun to think that that is true. And then the migration of from Atlantis first went to Iberia before it made it through the Mediterranean all the way to Egypt. And they say that the Egyptian pantheon were elders from Atlantis who had particular powers. But Iberia is almost the same as the Hebrew word Ivri, because it means to cross over from the island of Atlantis to the shore of Iberia. And that Iberian language is really interesting, well worth exploring. Okay, I think we'll leave it at that, but working with the 72 heart petals, I had an alchemist who was working with the 72 heart petals, was consulted by some Kabbalah group that was working with it in Israel, and she was teaching them the alchemy of the heart. And at a certain point, she said the heart has 72 petals. If you're in the Islamic world, there's 99 names of God, right? And each of them is a heart quality. So it makes real sense to me that each one of these opens up an aspect of the human heart that connects us closer to our divine matrix, like that.
Well, that's really interesting. And the heart chakra would effectively have the 72 different points.
Yeah, and that's why, and the Hebrew breastplate, right, would have 12 stones, each connected to like a suite of 12 of them, something like that, or
Right.
6 of them.
I can't help but say this, but there's two sides to seeing the heart chakra. Doubling it to see the male and the female aspect of it would be 144.
That's interesting, and I could certainly live with that.
But I just like that number, 144.
Yeah, well, you're working with what is in astrology is called the quintile. Then look at it this way, because in Hebrew, 144 is kedem, which means pre-eternal. That's what it means. Kedem means before time, pre-eternal.
It also equals 9, which is so.
Yeah, but we don't reduce, we expand out. That's the
Okay.
problem with most numerology, Jeremy, is that it's all trying to collapse everything back into 9 numbers or 22 numbers. Gematria skips into other dimensions. You want to see the frequencies and the steps by which that happens.
Octaves or something.
You know, so Kedem means pre-eternal. So from my standpoint, everybody, you know, when Jose Arguelles wanted to get 144,000 people out in 1987 so that we wouldn't have to deal with this, you know, chaotic moment, the chaos node moment of, you know, the end of time and all of that. Well, 144 may have been misunderstood by scribes. Because if you're a Hebrew scribe, 144 means kedem, it means pre-eternal ancient. But all of a sudden, it became the 144,000 chosen beings.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think so. That was like that word 144 got materialized into that. And of course, all of Christianity believes it. And if you go to Alabama, you're in trouble with this, you know. But basically, 144,000 would be the pre-eternal ones that are connected to the Aleph, connected to the source energy, like that. And they would all have to have pretty open 72 petal heart chakras in. Okay, let's go on. Now, okay, well these are in here. This is what I've been sourcing. And these, I had a point where I was doing a lot of meditation on these and just asking Spirit what they meant directly. So I've got a different version of this than most people have. These card decks put out by Rav Berg, which are good on the psychological level, but I don't think they go into the mystical enough. I'm not about to put another card deck together, but the graph paper here is a Moroccan mandala, by the way. So, you know, Lamed Aleph Vav, unified energy field, good for lucid dreaming. Like it took me about a year to put this graph together. And the last one, hold on a second. Oh, well, I won't do it. We'll move on a little bit here. This is a diagram out of a Kabbalah group called the Work of the Chariot, Maseh Merkava in Hebrew. And it's showing Sefer Yetzirah correspondence, I think, or looking at a 6-dimensional universe, like that. I don't think I'll go into that too much right now, because that requires too much background. This is a Tree of Life diagram done by Warren Kenton, also called Zev Shimon Halevi. And it's good, because he went much more into the cosmos, looking at, you know, mankind and nature, and it's not just simple planetary correspondences. But if I'm working with Kabbalistic astrology, basically what I do is I take the gematria, the number system, of say where the moon is, and I put it in Yesod. And I look and see what degree of the zodiac the sun is, and it goes into Tiferet in the center. And I put Netzach Venus here, and Mercury here, and Mars here, and Jupiter there, because they represent, from Greek mythology, an aspect of the self. And by using the gematria and having written all of 2160, I can get some clues as to what's going on, and a little bit of whispering in my ear to what's going on with somebody's soul history. So it's a totally unique and fun way to do astrology, and I have to be in a meditative state to pull it off. But I've had some clients tell me that, you know, I was bang on with something, or some maybe other channel told them that a long time ago. So it's a way of working with what one could call deep personal mythology. What you've carried over through from past lives, Gilgulim in Hebrew, to this one. And it's available in astrology, but it's not, I'm not too fond of, you know, just pure psychics, because they tend to, at least in North America, they often make things happen. You know, and I want a map that gives me a hint, so that I feel like I've got real guidance with it. So, Zev Shimon Halevi's written a few good books on Kabbalah. I don't think he really speaks Hebrew that much, so he's really got more of a Jungian, Gurdjieffian lens to what he's doing. But his work has merit. This is an ancient map of the Tree of Life where the paths are a little bit different. It's very interesting. You can see there's a flow pattern going to the next wheel up, and the next tree up, and the next tree down below. And this is from the Sefer Yetzirah, giving the 7 double letters, because there's 7 letters that have a correspondence to the 7 planets, sort of thing.
That's like a code, the one on the left.
Pardon?
Looks like a code, like a puzzle, the one on the left, to me.
You know, it would be fun to do that as a board game. I'm just wanting to show you some Kabbalistic art, really. This is one that, I'm not sure where the artist was, but he's showing this is the Ein Sof, the Ein Sof Or, which is what is above the crown, you know, the infinite, infinite without threshold. And it's an extended tree. So it's like not just one tree, it's a tree, you can have a tree in each of the 4 worlds. This is again done by my friend David Friedman, and he just made something which is like the Ein Sof, the line of light that comes in through Keter and goes right down into Malchut. So each of us have that line of light, and there's like a spiral vortex above us, and it comes right down through the spinal column, or the breathing tube, if you want to use Trinvalo's terminology, right through us, and can purify each of our spheres of the Tree of Life. This is a beautiful diagram that he did. And he just did this by multiplying the letters, Keter, Keter, Keter. I don't know how many he put in, I never counted, but this, I can do it. There's this is the poem that is at the 193rd degree of the zodiac. My sun is there, so I really had to work to get this one. And I was really happy to find that when you took the word Bereshit, it's on that 193 harmonic. It's 913, which is 720 plus 193. So that's how I work with the gematria. Like I do it in bundles of 360. 361 is the first harmonic of 1, and so I can take big long phrases if I want to. So this is the phrase Bereshit. According to the Zohar, there's 70 or 72 ways of organizing those letters for different meaning. But it means Bereshit, create a foundation, or create the primordial 6, if you want. But you can break it in different ways. You can say in the Rosh, in the original 10 spheres and 22 letters. So there's been many people that have meditated on this word, and in the Zohar I think they came up with 72 different ways of understanding that word, Bereshit. So in the beginning vibration, you created 6 dimensions of the dreaming, foundation of the covenant, of fire, spade of the earth, spade of the sky, shield with a double entrance. The shield with the double entrance is the Star of David. That's what it is. It's a shield with a double entrance. 10 spheres, 22 fire letters. So there's 10 spheres, 22 fire letters, the 22th letter. The Elohim, in whom the male and the female are one. So you've got this New Age philosophy now about meeting the soulmate, and one carries the male aspect of the one being and the other carries the female. So it's that unification of the masculine and the feminine, the male and the female, so that they're in a beautiful dance that balances, is very much part of Kabbalah. And it's very much part of Shir HaShirim, that sacred book that Akiva loves so much. Okay, so we've done a little bit more Gematria.
The Elohim.
Yeah.
Can you expand on that, on the meaning of that word?
Sure. Elohim is the creative powers. And in Sumeria, there was quite a number of them. There was quite a number of them in Egyptian mythology too, certainly more than 7. But the Hebrew mythology, which I believe came out of Amarna, was a group of 7. And it wasn't just to connect them to the days of the week, but maybe to the first 7 dimensions. So that the Elohim are the powers of big time cycles, aeonic time.
Right.
And different, every culture has given them
I've heard
different names.
Yeah, of course. And
every culture.
there was one translation, one who comes from the stars, meaning Elohim, which a star might have to do with
Could be.
all your balanced chakras.
Could be. I just wanted to do this one for you, which is Merkava, which is Memresh Kaf Beit He, has a gematria of 267, which is interesting because that's exactly where our galactic center is, the 27th degree of Sagittarius, 27 degrees, 267th degree of the zodiac. Now, I was riffing on a couple of phrases that came out of Drinvalo. Whatever you see or feel in the Merkava becomes real. When you eat fruit from the tree at the heart of the garden, there is one in heaven who reveals secrets, a friend on earth who interprets dreams. Not to mention Malachei Elyon. We will remember this star breath, feel the sun absorbing waves pulsed from galactic center, helium core, emitting solar winds, catching the returning light in a giant dream catcher, weaving a lattice, spinning the fields of Kochav David. One of my favorite micro-poems in the whole epic. Mm-hmm. And I just got an email from Ken Page, who pointed out that what Greg Braden was saying a number of years ago about the doubling of the frequency of the Schumann resonance has been just recorded in this past period of time. They were recording it in Russia and a couple of other places, and it skipped right up to double.
What does that mean?
Well, that means that we're in what Tom Kenyon would call, or the Hathors would call, a chaotic node, because we're skipping to a higher dimensional Earth right now, which, if you're really attached to the lower dimensional Earth, it'll create some problems.
Right.
So we're getting unstuck from some of the prejudices that we have of being overly physical beings.
The Schumann resonance is the common frequency measured about what the pulse, the main pulse of the Earth is, too. So that
yeah, so and it could disrupt the magnetic field severely if it's when it skips up.
yeah,
But it's like an overtone harmonic, so it's almost like we have to live in the overtone realm.
So you said the human frequency.
Schumann?
Schumann.
Oh, the Schumann.
Schumann resonance.
Schumann resonance.
Yeah,
Got it.
that's just what it's called, and it was at
Right.
15.
Oh, okay.
What is it, 15?
It was 7.8 at one point.
That's right, so it must be up to 15.6
yeah,
now.
yeah.
So, real. Wow, that's pretty significant.
It is very significant, and I think that's the kind of thing that shamans pick up first, because they're tuning into the upper worlds, and it may mean that records will become more available underneath the temples, that some of the prophecies of Edgar Casey will, of storage from Atlantean records in Mexico, and maybe there'll be something under the water that will get revealed. So we're in a time where,
Shift.
yeah,
So
it's a
you're
big
saying
shift.
you're saying we've gone from the Schumann resonance to the shaman resonance.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's a good
well
one. That's a
put
good
there.
Whoa.
Good one.
Yes,
That's
very
good.
good. We can get you on coast to coast with that one alone. Come on. This is a beautiful map by a friend of mine, Karen French. And she's, I think we both worked with Pythagoras. And this is a map of what is called E8. And it's a graph with 248 different points on it. And physicists are looking at this as a way of a new model for physics, the E8.
It's 200, and they just, it's from 200, how many points?
248.
Each of those points.
Yeah, there's 248 in the outer wheel. And maybe it's showing here as a series of them broken down for each of these.
And the interference pattern creates that little tree of life thing
Yeah.
in the middle.
Yeah,
Whoa.
yeah. Now,
Oh my God.
as it happens in Gematria, the Hebrew word Avraham has the Gematria of 248. Abraham. Bara, which is a code for Aleph Bara Elohim. In the beginning, the one created. So this is now being looked at as physics, as a master mandala that they can use to understand creations as physicists. I'd love to be able to apport Dr. Quantum, Fred Alan Wolf, who I interviewed years ago.
The exploding of a star
Mhm.
creates this chaotic field that structures itself a lot like what that would look like, I would imagine.
Yeah, when it reintegrates, yeah.
Yeah. And you've got the beehive in there and everything.
Yeah. So I want to do some more research on E8 because I kind of understand its implications, but I don't know how it works that much. But I will say in Hebrew, on one of those 360s, Avraham is 248. Abara, like bara Elohim, create the Elohim. And then the Hebrew divine name, Yud He Vav He Elohim, I guess, is the one who was, is, and will be of the Elohim is 112. So between the 248 and the 112, you get the 360 homeless. You know, it's pretty challenging, but this is going to lead into a little bit of work on crop circles, because here you have the design of what comes from 3 points, 5 points, 6 points. What is this? A 7? This is heptagonal.
It's a 7.
I was in the first heptagonal crop circle years ago. It was 97, and it was unbelievable. It's like the year before there had been all 6, and people had felt, no, they're going to take it to the new level. They did. They brought through a 7-sided one. There's been a few, but not too many. 7's not easy to do. So we're going to. The crop circles are sacred geometry on earth energy node points, basically. So they're musical frequencies that are stamped on the earth, but are really a frequency going right through the structure of the earth, and bit by bit helping to reorganize us in the same way that the Schumann resonance is changing, so that collectively, you can work with an individual here and there, but if you're an Elohim, you want to work with like an earth grid energy. You want to work with the sacred geometry.
The collective consciousness.
Yeah, where earth ants are running around, you know, and that's not, it's seldom going to be where big cities are. Sometimes. And there was a crop circle, which isn't going to be in this slideshow, but this one was. They called it a Latin cross, but actually the top part of this was in a crop circle a few years ago. I'll show it to you later, just from the crop circle oracle card deck. That this one is, what did she call it here? In
Unified code into 6 squares.
uh-huh. Well, I'll show you the crop circle later, and it was one of the most evolved ever.
It's actually 7 cubes, but that's okay.
And I'll show you Karen French's book as well.
That previous slide showed jumping into the next dimension with
Yeah.
the hypercube and everything.
Yeah.
Which is the tesseract, isn't it? What you're talking
Yeah. Now this is called the theory of everything. The big toe, right?
Yeah.
The big theory of everything. Karen does a really good job. I want to show you the book later. This is from a friend of mine who put out the Sacred Geometry source book. And what you're looking at here are mandalas. And this is formed out of 36 overlapping circles, 72, 9, 18, and you'll like this one, Dan. That's the 144. That's pretty complex. I don't think you'll get a crop circle that gives you the 144 donut.
Oh, let's meditate on it.
It could happen. It'd have to be pretty big.
Yes, it would have to be pretty big. I'm glad you keep the door open for that one, Dan.
Yeah.
But this is a very important harmonic in astrology. And when I'm working as an astrologer, I'm working with the number 5 and the number 7 and the number 11. It's called harmonic astrology. Very few astrologers ever even touch it. They don't have any idea. But this gives you the creative energy of a human being because it's working on the pentagonal symmetry.
The 12 times 12.
The 144, that's
Yeah.
2/5 of a circle. Twice 72. And 108 is part of that. That's 3 times 36. So every separation between two planets astrologically has a meaning. If I stick around long
That's
enough, I'll
right.
try and write the book on that one. But
Between two, like you said, every separation between 2 planets, each of the signs of the zodiac is 12, and each can relate to every other one, which is 12 again. 12 times 12, 144 possibilities.
Yeah. Then there was also a way of dividing up the zodiac into 144 segments.
Right.
I think her name was Thaisa Escobar. They were called the 144 doors. So these are subharmonics. In each, there would be like 12 of them in each zodiac sign, but Libra would start one place, Scorpio would start another, like that. So it's like there's so many ways that you can use fractal geometry, basically.
Well, it's also encoded in the big circle there because each place,
You want me to go back?
yeah, sure. If you look, each place where 2 lines intersect is also a harmonic.
That's right, those are node
Those
points.
are all noodles.
They're node points. Now, coming up are a few of the crop circles. This is the one that came down at Martin South Hill in 2007. And when you look at it, you're basically looking at the 5th dimensional energy coming in here in the center of all of them. And then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So you've got 5 dimensions in there. So you're looking at the 5th dimensional coming in the center there. And each of those is, you know, it's a profound circle. And I had the challenge of writing an oracle for each of them. And I'll tell you, that was the most, I mean, I could put lots of stuff about them and the numbers and the myths and stuff, but I had to come up with something that would be an oracle. So this one is, You nest an ancient, new, enlightened being within your heart. Tap your thymus gland 72 times to open. So this is a practice because 72 is a sacred number. So you do it, I do it like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Like I do it in multiples of 3, so 24 times 3 for 72 or whatever. And I find that if I do that every day, it definitely boosts my immunity, and it keeps me aware of the energy from that center.
It's like the hollow point.
Yeah, well, you're creating a little resonance through the bones, but the idea is that if you're right on the thymus point, the thymus gland is considered your organ of regeneration, and some psychics would call it the high heart.
That's interesting.
You know, and it's very important to keep that thymus gland healthy.
They call it solar plexus too, don't they? And
Yeah,
that's,
that's one down.
yeah. Oh, okay.
So
It's
like
below.
right
Oh, I see,
below the
okay.
xiphoid.
I'm sure it has many names.
Now, here is the one, the crop circle that everybody loves.
Yeah.
It's an angel.
And it was called, came down at a place called Great Shelford, and when I looked at it the first time I thought, oh, this is Rumi. This is the dervish with the skirt. That's how I saw it. So, and Rumi being a heart master for sure. And I counted them, but it was very hard. I had to think that there was a couple missing extras in there, and I might have to do a recount, like an American election on it. But it was close enough to 72 for me to say, no, this is based on 72. And as a graphic, it became the most cherished of all crop circles.
I see a logarithmic frequency change towards the top.
Mm-hmm. And actually there are, this photograph doesn't show it, but there's actually a 7th circle. 1 circle, 2 circles, 3 light circles, 1, 2, 3 ground dark circles, but then there was another circle up here of light, which is like a corona. You can just begin to see it around the head. So there's light emanating in that 7th circle around the crown chakra of this being. Quite a work of art, this particular crop circle. And then the oracle that I wrote for this is: visualize yourself standing in a pillar of light. Feel this light descending from above your crown, illuminating your pineal gland, collecting in the chalice of your heart. Feel this blessing resonating between the palms of your hands. Be a healing angel, connecting heaven and earth. And ultimately, that was the beginning of healing. It was that people who were working with healing opened up the crown chakra, the light came through, and it divided into the magnetic field between left and right hand. And we hold that between the palms of our hands. So if you can call that energy in, you can hold that field. And that's the work of a healer, to do that.
And the angel Metatron is related to crystal energy. And this is what I was told with Metatron. And the crystal breaks the prism up into all the colors of the rainbow.
And Metatron in Hebrew lore is the one that Enoch, Hanoch, the initiate, became when he left his body and went back home. So there's a little bit more on Metatron. And there's a whole science now of the new physics coming in, which you could call Metatronics. Now this one, on number 26, this, remember I showed you upstairs, was the tetractys, yeah? Which is 9 triangles held inside the 10th. Well, this one popped it open and showed the radiation of energy going out. And I think actually there are 26 circles in each, radiating out in each. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I might have to do a recount on this one too. But the beauty of taking that triangle
27.
and
see
sending it out
27.
through radiation with the little circles was intense. Right.
It would have been intense to be in that if that
Yeah, I was not
yeah.
there in that year. That came down in, well, maybe I was, but I wasn't in that circle. But there was in 1997, there was a group of Kabbalistic symbols in the fields in Britain. Pretty potent year. And 52 is important for the Gematria, because in Hebrew, that's the number value of the prophet Elijah, right? However, 52 is also the number of Zechuti, also called Thoth, in Egypt, and Viracocha in the southern hemisphere. So there's something about the number 52 that connects you to an ascended master of whatever culture you're connected to. Here's a little inside dope on this. There's a woman who works with the Templars. She throws a conference every summer. Her husband worked a lot with Earth Grid, pyramid energy. And she was in Britain 1 year. And 1 year, there were no crop circles up to a certain date. This is the 30th of June, 2006. So there obviously wasn't much in May and there wasn't much in June. And crappies were probably pretty downhearted, and they figured that the British government might have been meddling and keeping the circles from happening. They didn't know what was going on, but she called on her team, the Templars, and went to a place called Merlin's Hill, which is also called Marlborough. So she called in energies from the Earth Devic energy and energy from the stars, did some prayer, and the next morning, this time tunnel showed up at Windmill Hill, which is one of my favorite places to go. It's really close enough to Abe, very easy to get to. So I get goosebumps just telling you the story.
Wow.
That thing is levitating on top of the other one.
Yeah, it's levitating and it's showing you ultimately. I imagine this as a ceremony done in Merlin's time where one's winding up a sacred hill, probably the Glastonbury Tor, and then you've got to reverse your spin. So if you're, so you come down, back down the other way. But when you get to here, you were simultaneously there.
Oh.
Stargate.
It's a gate. It's a stargate. You bet. To the next harmonic. And you have that in music when you make overtone harmonics.
When they did that meditation, they broke that spell and opened a Stargate, and this crop circle started showing up again.
Right, right. And obviously people on the first level of vibration were trying to keep that next energy of coming in. So she did some really good light work there. You can call it that. And I was there the year after this one came down, and I saw the ghost pattern of it in the field through one that had a circle. And a farmer told me that it was beautiful. You know, not all farmers want to kick out crappies. Some of them are pretty awake in Britain. They love the earth. You know, they're old earth energy lovers. What was really interesting is that this is an instrument. Michael Glicksman pointed this out. That was a legitimate instrument in the temple in Jerusalem, and I think it was either used for adding oil to the menorah or, you know, cutting the wick or something. I have not found the name of it, but that made it archaeologically really interesting. And of course, people said, "Oh, yeah, that could have been made by humans. Look how they used the tractor lines for graph paper." Well, wise choice. That's all I can say. Because there is a line of light, and it's coming right through this instrument, right through the central pillar of the Tree of Life. And one teacher of mine told me that in the old Tree of Life, the Hebrew letters were the almonds on these three spirals, half spirals here. Now here, this is the one that has the tetractys in the middle of it, and I showed you that upstairs, and you've got, you know, 1, 2, 3, you've got the 9, right? You've got the 6 hexagram in the middle, plus the 3, the 9, and then the whole one is the 10th. But then they added the next level, putting the zodiac of 12 around it, which is very, very interesting. Not enough has been made of this particular crop circle. It was a masterpiece.
And you can see Silbury Hill there.
That is, yeah, there's a, I was on Silbury Hill, Dan, once. One year, I don't know which year it was, and I looked around and there were 7 visible crop circles atop Silbury Hill. So my feeling is that Silbury Hill was used as a relay station, meaning Silbury Hill and maybe the circles that come near it are immediately relayed to the Giza Pyramid and go out to the whole Earth grid. I can't verify it, but I just feel it in my bones when I'm there. It just makes sense to me. How chalk is a resonator, I don't know. What the ley lines are under Silbury Hill, I don't know. But I just feel that Silbury Hill is a very sacred place. And British government doesn't like it when people go up Silbury Hill. It's, you know, it's public land, and, you know, so there's black helicopters there every now and again. But the British get there and they go, and sometimes they're in the parking lot camping and go up early in the morning. Now, this is later on, and I called this Metatrons Merkava, and I had the good fortune of being in both these circles. I have a friend, Astaria, and I went to this one, and we got to meditate in the central one, and it was like a hang gliding over it. Little did I know that there were 144 little circles around it. I think. 6 times 24. And beautiful, beautiful, beautiful circle to be in. And this one, I went with one of my friends there, and we were there at that magic sunset moment that filmmakers love.
Yeah.
And we had it to ourselves, so I got to walk all of it. And if our neighbor, Mr. Serreta, would finally get around to it, he said he could probably make this as a device, you know, out of copper wire. And I think it would be a really good idea to make that and pop it open, because it's going to, like, this is going to go up and this one's going to go down, so it's going to be pretty interesting. I don't know what one can do, but I will say that the weave of this was the most beautiful weave I've ever seen. Just unbelievably
It's like stitched together.
stitched together, and that's the signature to me of an authentic crop circle, is the weave and how it's done, whether it's spirals, whether it's up and down. It's like, you know, that's like basket making in University of America. You know, it takes skill.
And you don't want to, and you don't break these.
No,
weave.
no,
It's
no,
not
no,
broken.
it's not broken, you know, and you know that it's a sacred circle when you see that amount of weave. Oh, by the way, 84 is the number of Eno, Hano, and it's also the number of years in the orbit of Uranus. And there was a time, around 87 I think, where there was a conjunction of Uranus and Neptune at close to the galactic center in Sagittarius. And that was the pulse, and that's what Jose Arguelles caught. That was the pulse of an energy that probably is a 72-year window of time between between the age of Pisces and the age of Aquarius.
Where does that take us? 1987?
Well, 87, you know, it started in about 1961 and it goes to about 2033.
Okay.
So, and in 1997 was really the true galactic alignment time. So 87 to 2012 represented a 25 to 26 year period of time, so it represented a 26,000 year period of time.
Yeah.
And there's a few people aside from Jose that understood that. But it was kind of silly. in retrospect, to think that we would have, you know, a cosmic quantum leap happening on one day, you know, in 2012. And it was a great day to celebrate, but we've got lots of challenges yet before the incoming frequencies will create a new Earth. And this is from a beautiful book on Sefer Yetzirah by a Kabbalist. I'll show you the book upstairs. Masterful. And this is just showing how a tree of life fits geometrically into a larger grid.
That's important. That's a significant puzzle piece right there.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. And you know, one could build something like that out of copper gridding. And here is Metatron's cube, and this is often used by the crop circles. I even have tiles upstairs that deal with it, do this one. This is from a book which I have here on the Exodus. It's called Secrets of the Exodus by two French rabbis, last name of Saba. And Edgar Casey said that the French were reincarnated from Egypt, many of them. And that kind of makes sense to me when you understand that the French were the first Egyptologists, Champollion, and then they stole or broke. They brought back sphinxes to use as fountains in French cities and stuff. But the real kicker is this: if you live a life in Egypt, your whole life was about what was going to happen in the next world. So you did all these ceremonies and rituals and stuff. So it was kind of living for the transition moment to have a good eternity. Well, the French reversed it. They lived for this moment. And in Egypt, you ate specific foods. In France, you eat everything.
Eat, drink, and be merry.
Yeah.
So Asnat, let me go back here. Asnat was the name of the wife of the biblical Joseph.
Ooh.
And she was probably connected to Nut, the star goddess. So Joseph married in the biblical Joseph married into the Egyptian lineage that was carrying the deep feminine priestesshood, if you want to call it that. And however, in Hebrew, Asnat becomes the Ein Sof, the infinite energy of, I don't know how to create the Nun Taf in Hebrew, but probably connected to Nut, the star goddess. So, if I were a belly dancer, I'd want the name Asnat. And these rabbis are showing how some of the Hebrew letters come out of Egyptian hieroglyphs. This would be anathema to rabbis, but if you happen to have an incarnation in Egypt in Amarna, and you understand that Amarna was where the one God energy got birthed, and the Hebrew language was the language of the street in Amarna, not so far-fetched. And our friend Nassim is close to understanding that, because he's got the notion that Moshe, or Moses, kind of stole or took the Ark of the Covenant out of Egypt. I would go further. I think his job was to dismantle the earth crystal grid, to dismantle the malefic use of the earth grid by the Dark Lords. So there had to be a tremendous purification going on there. Whoops. Okay, do you want to do a little Merkava meditation to close it? That's what that is, and that's the Genesis prayer book. Drinvalo, when he was first teaching the Merkava meditation, had it as an 18-breath meditation, and then he simplified it because people did it and they weren't getting very far, I don't think. So what I did is I experimented with it and understood that 18 breaths through the tree of life is kind of interesting. And the Hebrew letters give you a teaching about it. So I'm going to read this, and you're welcome to close your eyes. And if anybody's watching it on YouTube, don't be surprised if all of a sudden you have a flash of illumination, or you wake up the next morning with an interesting realization. And so close your eyes, and I'm going to read you through this, or guide you through it. Ruach Achad, the breath of the gift of life, your first breath. Breathe in your sense of oneness with all your relations from your home in the world of Yechidah, unified field. Ruach Bereshit, the breath of creation. Create the 6 cosmic days of Genesis, or a Star of David, surrounding yourself with the Or Ein Sof, the infinite light, as you breathe in the gift of creation. Ruach Gilgal, breathe in all the wheels and the waveforms as you prepare to travel in your Merkava. Breathe in and purify the karma field of all your past lives. Breathe in the sweet air from the hills of Galilee. Ruach Gan Eden, breathe light in through Keter, your crown. Remember how we used to breathe in the Garden of Eden before our fall into this time-space continuum. Feel the 4 rivers of light as they emanate through the pineal at your pineal gland, through the portal at your pineal gland. Ruach Argaman, breathe in the vibratory fields of your 5 soul bodies. Breathe in the healing energies from the angels that surround you. Uriel, Raphael, Gabriel, Mikael, Nuriel. Breathe in the violet ray. Ruach Vavim, breathe in the pillars of light that connect you to Adam Kadmon. Feel the flow of pure light between Keter and Malchut, heaven and earth. Ruach Sheva, breathe in the Shefa, the overflow from source. Breathe in the covenant, the promise, and the contract your neshama made with spirit before your consciousness and your soul came into your body. Ruach Chevron, breathe in the field of love that the 8 ancestors are pulsing through you this very moment. Let the love translate all your subconscious fears. Feel the power of the electromagnetic fields and the oscillating heart waves flowing through you. Ruach HaTeva, breathe in the earth energies that nourish, support, and move through your being. Feel your navel begin to awaken right here at Mount Tabor. Feel the seed of creation within your womb. Ruach Eitz HaChaim. Breathe in light to fill all 10 spheres of your tree of life. Broadcast this light gently from Teferet out to the rest of your universe. Feel the sphere expanding to infinity from your heart. Ruach HaKochavim, breathe in the light of the stars from the heart of the sun. Be aware of the pulsating spheres of light that is glowing over your crown. Ruach Elohim, breathe in the gift of the co-creation. Breathe in your divine spark. Breathe in your divine breath. Be still in your pillar of light at the lamed point between inhalation and exhalation. Ruach Mishiach. Breathe in your own anointing at the pineal gland in the near the third eye. Feel the Shekhinah vibration cleanse the cells of your physical vessel as galactic waves waveforms sweep through your light body. Ruach Hineni. Breathe in from your Nefesh center at the belly. Breathe in your Neshama at your pineal. Breathe in both the Nachash serpent and the Yonah dove. Balance the earth energies and the star harmonics within you. Breathe in the Ahava Rabbah, the love of the cosmos that created you and connects you to all beings in the universe, omniverse. Ruach Hasa'ara. Breathe in the whirlwind, the counter-rotational spinning vortices of light that are beginning to emanate out from the heart of our circle. Breathe in light and breathe out love. Ruach in Chashmal. Breathe in the eye of the vortex. Breathe from the still center at the core of all electromagnetic fields and spiral galaxies. Breathe in the void. Feel the electrical spark that connects the cherubim moving back and forth between the hemispheres of your brain and the spheres of your being. Ruach ha'ofanim. Breathe in the alternating faces of the energy field we are creating for you this very moment. Let your consciousness approach the speed of light. Feel a disk of light expanding like a spinning hula hoop from the spark of light at your Yechidah. Feel the portal at the core of 4 electromagnetic fields as you balance and ignite the 4 worlds within yourself. Ruach Chai Olam. Breathe in the infinite life energy. Breathe in the life breath of the universe. Ruach Chai Olam. Now take one good deep breath and blow it out. I think that's as far as we can go tonight. But if it's in divine flow, we'll put another one together, a follow-up. So thank you for your presence. Thanks for the recording work, Dan. Much appreciated. And you've had your not so small morsel of Kabbalah.
Joseph.
Thank you, Joseph.